Pursuant to Section 84-1411 of the Nebraska statutes, notice of this meeting was given on January 15, 2021. The meeting will convene at 6:30 p.m., and visitors may obtain a request to be heard form from staff for any presentation they may have for the meeting. In accordance with policy, the request to be heard forms must be submitted to the secretary within the first 5 minutes of the board meeting in order to be heard at this meeting. Agenda items are subject to reordering at the discretion of the board president. Please attend the entire meeting to ensure you're able to hear any discussion. Pursuant to Section 84-1411 of the Nebraska statutes, the regular next board meeting of the Board of Education of Douglas County School District 0001 and the Board of Educational Service Unit Number 19 will be held on Monday, February 1st, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. in the board meeting room of the Teacher Administrative Center, 3215 Cumming Street. The agenda will be kept current and available for public inspection in the Office of the Secretary of the Board of Education at the Administrative Building during regular working hours. Pursuant to Section 84-1412 of the Nebraska statutes, the public is hereby informed that a current copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is posted in the board meeting room on the north wall. Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Vice President Erdenberger will lead us in the OPS vision and mission statement.
Thank you. The vision: every student, every day, prepared for success. And the mission: to prepare all students for success in college, career, and life.
Thank you. Mr. Snow did advise us that he will be running a little bit late tonight. Roll call, please, Mr. Ray.
Cassidy.
Here.
Erdenberger.
Here.
Head.
Here.
Holman.
Present.
Cracky. Smith.
Here.
Snipes.
Present.
Snow. Teva.
Present.
8 present.
Is there a motion to excuse Mr. Snow?
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved by Ms. Snipes and seconded by Mr. Head to excuse Mr. Snow. Roll call, please.
Teelan.
Aye.
Cassidy.
Aye.
Erdenberger.
Aye.
Head.
Aye.
Holman.
Aye.
Cracky. Smith.
Aye.
Snipes.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Motion passes. Next is School Spotlight. Mr. Maskell.
Well, good evening, President Holman, Vice President Erdenberger, members of the board, and Superintendent Logan. Tonight, our OPS Proud Spotlight is the Standing Bear Elementary School community for receiving the National Blue Ribbon Schools Award. Standing Bear Elementary is one of 6 schools in Nebraska honored with the award. Schools earn this recognition based on overall academic performance or progress in closing achievement gaps. In this video, Principal Bridget Amelia will talk about their school community. We'll also hear from 2 4th grade students at the school.
Standing Bear has been, a high-performing school for years. So as a principal of this building, it's a great honor. I mean, there's probably not really a bigger honor at this point when you're looking at academics due to, dedication of the staff and really, aside from just strong teaching, building that camaraderie, probably the single most influential practice is just establishing and sustaining positive and trusting relationships. So when all that comes together, it makes for a great building, a great place to be.
Everybody's kind. We treat each other fairly. It's not like a school where everybody's bullies. Everybody's really kind.
I think the teachers build relationships and work hard and, look at individual students to make sure they're achieving where they need to be.
I like math because I can multiply stuff and it always helps me with tons of stuff.
I think combining all those things makes for a great environment.
Congratulations to all Standing Bear students, staff, and families for this achievement.
Thank you so much, Mr. Maskell. Moving on to Board and Superintendent Communications. First, we will have the Treasurer's Report, but unfortunately, Mr. Roberts is unable to be with us tonight. So board members, the Treasurer's Report is on the agenda, and if you have any questions, please direct it to Mr. Ray. Next, Dr. Logan.
Good evening, President Holman, Vice President Erdenberger, members of the board, those with us in person, and those watching our live stream. This week, we are welcoming in-person students in person using our Family 3-2 model. In less than 2 weeks, we'll continue a phased transition to a 5-day-a-week in-person instruction offering for our families. That begins with our elementary and our middle school students. 2020 and 2021 have brought more challenges at times that we probably thought we could meet. For our families, we know hybrid instruction placed burdens on daily routines, created social and emotional stress, and impacted some students' ability to perform at their highest level. We're seeing some of those impacts in our academic data and our math scores that we will see later this evening. MAP is an assessment tool our teachers use to measure student achievement and growth in math, reading, language, and science. It gives teachers actionable evidence to help target student instruction. This evening, we'll discuss that data and our focused work with students to accelerate learning. It will be a long-term, multi-year effort. Last week, I also met virtually with members of the Corinne community. One parent, a father of 5, talked about the personal hardships the pandemic imposed on his family. One of the bright spots right now is his children's return to daily in-person instruction. He emphasized that even in the midst of the chaos the virus has caused his family and community, loss, job interruptions, his children's education remains their very top priority. The children also look forward to seeing their teachers and friends in person every day. While this is just one story of feedback received since last week's announcement, many of other families echo the sentiment. While we would all like to see our community health conditions improve more rapidly, our commitment to student success compels us to move forward at this time. We understand that some of our families may feel remote learning is the best option at this time, and we will continue our remote learning program. This pandemic requires all of us to remain adaptable. Through it all, students will remain the forefront of our decision making. Last week we introduced our college and career academies and pathways. College and career academies represent the evolution of high school programming. The update aligns with our strategic plan of action launched 1 year ago. The high school plan that you will see tonight is a call to action to not accept the status quo that far too long has some children doing very well and highly engaged in school while leaving others in the same school to just admire the accomplishments of their classmates. While change is hard, it is the only constant in life. Our young people know when they see the status quo. Just a few months ago, a passionate group of students provided comment before the board demanding access to more academic rigor and preparation for the world of work. You may recall them. They feel that that has been something that has been denied. Not just for them, but more importantly, they were speaking up for their classmates. This is what the status quo does. It gatekeeps. It's not inclusive. It does not allow for innovation. While tonight's presentation will focus on programming, the strategic plan of action sets goals for career programming, but also ensuring access to advanced programs, some new, such as Cambridge, and expands the definition of what children and their families should expect to receive from the Omaha Public Schools during their high school years. We are very excited about the years to come and look forward to the presentation this evening. You will learn about academies, small learning communities with a career focus, groups of students with a similar career interest take classes together. We have 2 academy schools existing. You will hear from our principals who participated in the creation of the plan along with their staffs. You will also hear about pathways that are a series of 4 or more classes focused on a group of related careers or cluster. Students in a pathway take classes with a wide range of other students across career interests. Through work with community members, our strategic planning future labs encourage OPS staff and community members to examine what's needed to prepare students throughout the next 5 to 20 years. The result was a portrait of an OPS graduate. The skills important are for students to be a communicator, a critical thinker, innovator, civic and global contributor, and a resilient achiever. As we designed the College and Career Academies and Pathways programming, we gathered feedback from our students, families, staff, business leaders, and community partners. We also used insights from a parent survey disseminated during summer of 2020 to inform our Career Connected Learning Plan. More than 2,100 parents responded to the survey. The plan, which will focus on English, math, and social studies, allows students to explore career options during a freshman seminar course during freshman year. Freshman year is a critical year for students. Students who do not do well in their freshman year have a very hard time finishing high school in 4 years. Implementation of the plan begins in the fall, and again, you will hear more about it in tonight's presentation. We also would like to take this moment to acknowledge I Love Public Schools Day. It was a little overshadowed by inaugural yesterday, but it did occur yesterday on January 20th. The celebration continues on social media, highlighting the wonderful work of our public schools here in the state of Nebraska. Writing a note or a thank you to a teacher or investing in success with a classroom supply list, there are many ways to express your support. Lastly, congratulations are in order for the 2020 winter graduates of the Multiple Pathways program. We congratulate these OPS students and wish them the best. Anaya Webb and Anaya Jones of Central High School for making the All-Metro Tournament team for girls basketball. Congratulations to those young ladies. Giovanna Zermano of Norris Middle School for being awarded the Nebraska Middle School Counselor of the Year. And to top that off, Jacqueline Holtz of Walnut Hill Elementary for earning the Nebraska Elementary School Counselor of the Year award. Job well done all. Thank you for making all of us OPS proud. This concludes my remarks for this evening. Thank you, President Holman.
Thank you, Dr. Logan. Board members? Ms. Crackey.
Tonight I want to recognize Shirley Tyree, her service on the board and other boards, and it was so much fun to work with her. I don't even know a mean bone in her body. She was always kind. She looked at things in a positive manner. I can't agree that I always do that. You who know me know I don't always do that, but she did. And even if there was something wrong, she had a way of working around it, so it ended up that these people were in a learning process or something like that. So she was a great board member, well-liked, and did a good job, and she passed away this week. And that's why I'm noting that. And in the past, if you've been around long enough, you know a lot of great people that have been with OPS. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Crackey. Mr. Head?
Yeah, thank you, President Holman. I just wanted to real quick congratulate Standing Bear again and Principal Amelia, all of our students, staff, everyone out there. As a Sub-District 5 school, we are remarkably proud of them. Dovetailing into that, I've spent the last week going out and visiting the Sub-District 5 schools and had the opportunity to speak with principals, teachers, and a couple students. And you know, from everyone I've spoken with, everyone's overwhelmingly excited to have students back full-time in February. So I am extremely excited and grateful for that plan to go forward.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Head. Any other? Okay. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Masks are required to be worn in order to speak during public comment. If you are not wearing a mask will be provided to you at the podium to wear while speaking. We have 4 speakers who have submitted request to speak forms. The board has adopted policy 8346, which provides public comment for a period of 1 hour. That same policy limits individual speakers to a maximum of 5 minutes. We ask that you respect that time limit. Mr. Ray will let you know when you have 1 minute remaining and when you have 30 seconds remaining. Given the number of speakers, we ask that, to the extent you are able, you keep your comments brief so that we can hear from as many of you as possible in the allotted time. If you are in need of an interpreter, please let Mr. Ray know and one will be provided for you. By its very nature, public comment is a reflection of the opinions of the speaker. Public comment is not a reflection of the opinions of the Omaha Public Board of Education. We understand that people have strong feelings about the issues they come to speak about. We ask that you respect the opinions of all who speak and that you refrain from applause or other outbursts during the presentations. If the subject of your public comment is related to a particular student or staff member, we ask that you not mention the student or staff member by name and instead provide that information to Mr. Ray. He will assist us into looking into those types of specifics for you. If you do not get an opportunity to speak and would like to submit any written commentary, please provide it to Mr. Ray. He will make sure each member of the board gets a copy. One final note about public comment. Since we are not usually aware of what topics speakers are likely to comment on, and since those topics are not on our agenda, we as a board generally refrain from engaging in discussion with members of the public during public comment period. While we understand that sometimes there is a desire to engage in direct dialogue or back and forth with the board, given the time constraints, we encourage you to reach out to each of us directly if you would like to discuss your concerns in greater depth. As a reminder, we ask that you please spell your name and state your address before you begin your public comment. It is now 6:45 p.m., and our first speaker is Kim Shaneyfelt. Did I say that correctly? Great.
I assume I come here.
Yes.
Good evening, Dr. Logan and members of the Omaha School Board. My name is Kim Shaneyfelt, and I have 4 kids at OPS. I have 2 girls that have graduated from Omaha Central in 2018 and in 2020, and I have twins that are 10th graders at Omaha Central currently. Thank you, first of all, for serving on the board. I know it's a really great thing for you to be able to do, and thank you for your time and your service. I appreciate that. I first of all want to say that. I'm here to address the question of block scheduling at Central High School, and I heard that it's possibly happening next fall. I'm not sure if that's correct or not, if it would be implemented right away in the fall. But my concern is that the teachers would have little time to plan for training and to get the tools that they would need to implement the block scheduling right away this fall, especially after a year of the pandemic and the online teaching and all the other things that the teachers have had to do to accommodate and make those changes in this last year. So I think that would be a concern that I would have about the teachers having to have more stress and more change in their life, as well as the students. The students would be also looking forward to coming back to the traditional scheduling that Central has had, the 9-period class the day that they have. I know that if they came back in the fall to a block schedule, for my students anyway, they would be really disappointed in that change this fall. We chose Central for the rigorous academics that are offered and for all of the different classes that they could take, the AP, the honors, the IB, all the different options. And as a parent, I would say that I'm concerned about the transparency of the communication that's given to us as parents for the changes that are going to be made from the strategic plan, and the details being from a 9-hour schedule day to a block schedule. And I think that block scheduling, there's a lot of pros about it. I know families that have experienced it. My kids have done it in junior high on the opposite AB days. But I know there's a lot of wasted time in the block scheduling. I know teachers can say, we're going to study during this time. You know, they'll teach and then they'll have study time. But I know a lot of those kids, even kids that really mean well, they don't study during that time always. So that's a concern for me. I know that there are a lot of other parents that feel the same way, and I think that it's something that should be discussed and not just made. I would like to see it not have a change be made without some discussion with parental input, and maybe not just a parental survey, but even just a group of parents being able to talk about it. The teachers that we have at OPS, I've had my kids in OPS all the way through K through 12 for all of them. The last 2 are K through 10. They're right now they're getting ready to move on to graduate in a couple years. But I have been an OPS parent. I've been a preschool teacher in the neighborhoods. I've been a piano teacher. I know a lot of my neighbors, and I'm super proud to be an OPS parent, and just would like to make sure as we're going forward, adding the 2 new high schools, talking about all the different concerns of what are you going to offer at all the different high schools, saying let's not try to make them all exactly the same. I know it'd be nice for streamlining and for scheduling, but that's my concern. So thank you for your time. I appreciate you all being
1
here.
minute.
I made it to 4 minutes. That's good. Thank you so much.
Thank
Have a
you
good
for
night.
being here.
Mrs. Shaneyfeld, could you please spell your name and provide your address?
You bet. I'm sorry. Kimberly Shaneyfelt, Kimberly. Shaneyfelt is spelled Shaneyfelt, and my address is 305 South 52nd Street, Omaha, Nebraska. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Gretchen Hooper. Hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening to everyone. Gretchen Hooper, Gretchen Hooper, Hooper, and my address is 113 North 54th Street. Good evening to you all, and I'm here to speak as well about the change resulting from the strategic plan that would affect Central greatly, from the traditional scheduling to the block scheduling, and I'll just kind of make my points as well as a parent. We chose Central 6 years ago specifically because of the traditional scheduling and the academics. I have a current sophomore there, and I have a 2019 graduate. I totally understand why the magnet schools such as North and Benson and such do the block scheduling and need those times in their day. And I think one of the strengths of the OPS system is that there are these different opportunities out there throughout their schools. And so kids and parents can go to these open houses and they can see where their fit is in that and how they learn best and what they can do. For us, for our family, traditional scheduling is what fits our needs best. And I feel like taking that away from Central is such a huge change, and it seems like that decision is being made without discussions and input from those affected most, the staff there, the students, and the families. I'm concerned for the staff at Central, kind of as Kim alluded to as well, having 2 years of school affected by the pandemic, and then my understanding is that this is supposed to start in fall of 2021, which is 7 months away. I had a question just to put out there, just kind of what is the plan for training the teachers to go from a traditional schedule to a block schedule? My understanding is that when North High made that change, there was, a 1 or 2 year period where guidance was given and training to the teachers to show, how to make the most of a 90-minute period versus the traditional 44 minutes that they've been doing for their whole time there. So I just wanted to know that. Appreciate, again, with all that you have done. And as a parent, I just felt that I wanted to have my voice heard, and hopefully that we can have more discussions and learn some more details about how this is all going to roll out. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Hooper.
Thank you.
Next, we have Walter Sudat. Good evening.
My name is Walter Sudat, WALTASUEDODD. I live at 3233 Madison Street in Omaha, 68107. I am the Omaha Education Association retired president. As you know, a bill has been introduced in the legislature, LB 582, that basically will dissolve OSERS from its membership and give it back to the Board of Education. What I don't understand is why. There are 4 bills that will be addressed at that time. Each one will have a separate hearing. Senator Colderman basically stated that if any one of the 4 is not passed, the bill would not advance. Bill number 1 deals with the definition of termination of employment. OEA Retired understands why this is necessary, because both entities would have to agree on terminology. So we have no problem with that part. The second one requires audits and further examination of PERB and how it's included. What we don't understand is why OSERS must pay for the compliance audit. when OSERS does not want to transfer OSERS to the PERB board. And by statute, at this time, OSERS is not required to do a compliance audit. If this law is passed, it will require OSERS to spend retirement money on a costly compliance audit, which it doesn't want. Since the state wants the compliance audit, shouldn't the state be paying for it rather than OSERS? The third one turns OSERS over to the Board of Education. In 2016, a bill was passed giving OSERS members the right to manage their retirement system. It was acceptable at that time. OPS voted last year that they no longer wanted to have anything to do with retirement other than their fiduciary responsibility. Yet you're willing to agree to the termination of OSER's Board of Trustees that were duly elected? Is it because OPS wants to appoint yes people to transfer OSERS to IMPERS? Is it because the present OSER's Board of Trustees voted against the transfer of management? Is it because the new board is charged with facilitating the transfer of management to the PERB board, where OSERS have no representation until the law is changed? Why does the new 7 yes board only have 2 OSERS members when we have 4 now? Bill number 4 deals with the transfer of management of OSERS to the PERB board. It has been delayed for 1 year to September 1, 2024. OEA retired understands why the date of transfer was delayed for 1 year, because there are too many unanswered questions. This bill will affect the lives of OPS staff and retirees into the future if all questions are unanswered. Whoever is careless with the truth in small matters cannot be trusted with important matters. Albert Einstein. Small matter.
1 minute.
Who submitted LB 31? Important matter. Transferring OSERS to IMPERS. Trust is like a vase. Once broken, though you can fix it, the vase will never be the same again. OPS, we've trusted our relationship. If this bill goes through, that trust relationship will never be the same again. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. Next, we have Robert Miller. Good evening.
Robert Miller, that's ROBERTMILLER. I reside at 7301 North 107th Avenue in Omaha, 68122. Good evening, President Dr. Holman, Vice President Erdenberger, Superintendent Dr. Logan, and members of the board. My name is Robert Miller, and I am the proud president of the Omaha Education Association, which represents all certificated staff in the OPS district. We have learned over the last year that plans change. We need to be able to make that change rather quickly. All staff have risen to the occasion to make things happen for the success of our students. When plans changed, when students to return to the 3-2 model at the end of first quarter, teachers followed the directions of the district, and they did what they do best. They made it work. Teachers were informed of the situation, of the sudden change, but were not included in the planning. The district spent a month refining the plan after students had returned to a classic example of fire, ready, aim. Had the district consulted those doing the work, these hiccups could have been addressed before the students returned. Once again, the district has released a plan without consulting those responsible for carrying it out. In the recent World Herald article, the district was quoted saying, "We have regular conversations with labor partners and have been discussing plans to welcome students in person 5 days a week since December." I talked to you about the lack of collaboration between the district and the OEA on many occasions. The collaboration in this instant went like this in December. We are working on a plan. The OEA asked for details in response, and the district stated that the plan wasn't ready yet. On January 6th, we asked for a timeline for returning to 5 days. Dr. Logan responded, Douglas County Health is encouraging OPS to move forward, and UNMC has no objections. In December, a survey, the district informed the teachers they'd have access to the vaccines. This was seen as imminent. Now the district has announced plans to return students to 5 days a week to crowded classrooms, lunchrooms, hallways, gyms, where social distance isn't possible. And this return plan is before teachers have access to the vaccine. A few statements that have been said to teachers this past week. Less than 2 feet is fine if students are masked and facing the same directions. In the classroom where there is overcrowding, they're told, it's okay, just deal with it. To do what you have to get the students into your classrooms. Teachers are looking to take FMLA, but due to lack of subs, are not wanting to leave other teachers with more students, causing additional hardships. They are feeling guilty even to think about putting their health first. Teachers want nothing more than to have their students back in the classroom, but in order to do it safely requires insight from those doing the work, something that appears to be missing in the decision-making. Our members have called and emailed in record numbers, and I can narrow these concerns down to 3: safety, vaccine, and social distancing. But due to time, I will submit these questions to each of you and look forward to your response. At this point, transparency on the metric being used is needed now more than ever. What is the district going to add to the widespread frequent testing when students return to a 5-day instruction? Teachers are feeling undervalued by a district and its administration who has joy in their strategic plan. It's challenging to find joy when you're constantly fighting to be heard. We don't ask much, we just want to be a part of the decision-making process. We do applaud the first that OPS was able to achieve during this pandemic with the OPS Protects and the UNMC partnerships. But I think we both
1 minute.
can agree that we don't want to be the first when it comes to the number of death of staff and students. Students can't learn when their teacher's dead. Safety matters, shots first. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Moving on to the consent agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda that is before us.
So move.
Second.
It has been moved by Mr. Smith and seconded by Mrs. Cassidy. Any abstentions?
Yes, Dr. Holman, I have an abstention. I need to abstain from Claim C, and I apologize, I don't know what number that is. I-29 maybe? I'm having issues with my computer.
Okay.
Claim C, though.
Okay, Ms. Cassidy will be abstaining from Claims Report C. Roll call, Mr. Ray.
Cassidy,
Aye.
Erdenberger,
Aye.
Head,
Aye.
Holman,
Aye.
Cracky,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Snipes,
Aye.
Thielen.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Motion carries. Okay, moving on to action items. J1A, first reading of policy 5404, cooperation with law enforcement. Mr. Ray will speak on this item.
Thank you, Board President Holman and Vice President Erdberger and Dr. Logan and the Board of Education. As a reminder on this policy item, on the December 14th board meeting, the Board of Education approved the associate SRO agreement with the Omaha Police Department. As part of the approval, the motion was made to direct administration to draft a policy and present it to the board at this very meeting. The attached policy 5404 is that draft. However, this policy has not gone through the review process of the policy committee, which is our standard practice. It is administration's recommendation that the attached policy go through the policy committee and then go to the board for ultimate review and approval, as all policies have done before. So the policy committee will bring this with your approval, the policy committee will then bring it forward to the full board again for approval. So our recommendation at this point is to have that policy go to the policy committee.
So moved.
Second.
There is a motion by Ms. Erdenberger and seconded by, so Mr. Smith, Mr. Thielen, thank you. Roll call, Mr. Ray, once you get settled.
Just 1 second here. Erdenberger,
Aye.
Head,
Aye.
Holman,
Aye.
Cracky,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Snipes,
Aye.
Thielen,
Aye.
Cassidy.
Aye.
8 aye.
Moving on to information items. Item J2A, math and grading data, a path forward from the pandemic's disruption to life and learning.
Before I get started, I'd like to thank Dr. Zom, who Mr. Schmidt-Bonnie is unable to be here this evening. So Dr. Zom was drafted yesterday, so obviously fully capable of doing the work as a psychometrician, but ready to have her. I just want to thank you publicly for taking this on this evening. Thank you.
Good evening, President Holman, Vice President Erdenberger, members of the board, and Dr. Logan. I am Dr. Janet Zom, Instructional Research Administrator. The MAP growth assessment data that we will discuss tonight includes students who were attending under the Family 3-2 model during the October to December fall MAP growth testing window. As a reminder, MAP stands for Measures of Academic Progress and is an adaptive test that is given to students in grades K through 10, and in a typical year is given in the fall, winter, and spring. We use the MAP growth assessment as both a norm reference test and an interim assessment to monitor student progress over time. It is an untimed online computer adaptive assessment that is designed to identify the instructional level of the student. Not included in the data are the students who are attending remotely at the time of testing. Although some districts tested remote learners, a district decision was made to only test students participating in the Family 3-2 model, as there are several considerations for administering the test remotely during this pandemic. These include helping parents understand how to proctor the test, troubleshoot any difficulties with technology that a student may experience, as well as the need for the standardization of the administration of the test. The disruption this pandemic caused our students reflects challenges affecting large urban school districts across our country. News reports have shown the many varied ways the pandemic has impacted families and communities. Recovery will take both time and coordinated efforts to support the young people we serve. To understand how the disruptions of this pandemic affected our students' academic progress, we analyzed data in a number of ways. The MAP growth data presented here compares the cohort of students who took the MAP growth assessment during the 2021 school year and the performance of the cohort of students who tested in 2019-2020. The second and fourth columns represent changes to the scores observed pre-pandemic and currently. In isolation, these columns do not tell you a lot, so we anchored these metrics in our working understanding of how the unfinished teaching and learning may have impacted our average student from their prior cohort to the present, as shown in the last columns. The findings indicate that the unfinished teaching and learning caused by the pandemic is mostly affecting performance in mathematics, where we have found our current cohort is, on average, behind the previous cohort by 34.4 days. In reviewing last year's 2019-2020 winter map data, it was found that the remote students, who are not included in these analyses, were predicted to be slightly less likely to be proficient on their state test than students who attended school during this year's fall map growth testing window in 2021 under the Family 3-2 model. However, the impact of the pandemic on student outcomes has not ended yet. To better understand the academic recovery needs of our students, we reviewed first semester grades as well. On average, across groups by race and ethnicity, there is work to be done. Overall, half of our student groups are meeting or exceeding their growth goals from fall 2019 to fall 2020. As you can see, there's more work to do in the area of math than reading, as we are under 50% on average. In addition, we have opportunity gaps that need to be addressed to improve student learning. In order to look at course grades, it is important to note that we will be reviewing longitudinal data for the school years of 18-19, 19-20, and 2021. Research conducted by the Chicago Consortium identifies students as on track if they earn at least 5 full-year course credits and no more than 1 semester F in a core course in their first year of high school. Knowing that one of our goals is high school graduation, we have proactively focused on our analyses on all secondary students failing 2 or more courses. Additionally, the 2021 data shows remote and Family 3-2 in-person learners separately. Since the 2018-2019 school year, first semester failure rates overall have risen slightly. You can see that there is a 0.48% increase at high school and an increase of 2.16 at middle school from 18-19 to 19-20. The pandemic has intensified this challenge, especially for remote students, as we see 14.8% at high school and 28.4% at middle school for remote students. Looking at the performance of fully remote students versus those attending in person under the Family 3-2 model, we find essentially no difference at high school. However, at the middle school level, remote student failure rates are significantly higher than students attending school under the Family 3-2 model, as represented by 10.57%. At this time, I would like to turn the presentation over to Mrs. Melissa Comine, Chief Academic Officer.
Thank you, Dr. Zahm. And good evening, President Holman, Vice President Erdenberger, Superintendent Logan, members of the board, and those in our audience and watching at home. Thank you for this opportunity to share our district's essential work with teaching and learning through and after this pandemic. With me tonight is Donna Dobson, Director of Elementary Education, Susan Christofferson, Director of Secondary Education, and Dr. Fatima Fulmore, Principal Supervisor. The student performance data presented tonight is compelling. The disruptions of the pandemic are real. These disruptions call for urgent, aggressive, and compassionate action that addresses unfinished teaching and learning, accelerates student achievement, and supports the individual needs of students as we move forward together. We have a lot of ground to cover, and this will take time. We are taking action. In February, we will welcome the return of students to 5 days of in-person instruction. We know that 5 days of in-person academic, social, and emotional instruction will best help our students move forward after a year of significant disruption. The remote learning program will continue to be an option for families who feel it is best. we are creating a district-wide academic acceleration and recovery plan. We know there will be a wide range of learning that individual students achieved at the end of the 1920 school year and through the 2021 school year. This plan will guide supports for academic and social emotional needs. The Academic Acceleration and Recovery Plan will focus on early childhood through high school students and have short-term, medium-term, long-term goals through the summer of 2023. The focus is on accelerating learning by creating an outcome-driven plan with research-based strategies and high expectations for students, teachers, schools, family, and the community. There are 9 areas of focus for this plan. They are summer school, one-to-one tutoring, assessment, calendar, essential standards and curriculum, procurement of adaptive tools, engaging local work groups, social emotional learning, engaging families, and building community. A core leadership team consisting of our superintendent, Dr. Logan, myself, our Chief of Student Community Services, our Director of Enterprise Strategy and Innovation, our Directors of Elementary and Secondary Education, our Director of Research, and a national consultant, Dr. Jay Steele, and his team. This core leadership team will create a framework for the 9 focus areas and engage future local work groups consisting of a variety of stakeholders for the creation of this plan. Over the past 2 weeks, I have met with a variety of focus groups for listening and input sessions to gather input on these 9 areas in the Academic Acceleration and Recovery Plan. These focus groups include elementary teachers, middle school teachers, high school teachers, parents, our district leadership team, research staff, principal supervisors, and some chief academic officers in the Council of Great City Schools. Engagement with principals and parent groups will be ongoing. In addition to focus groups, our research office is developing a survey for parents. We need input from our families, and it's important for us to clearly understand their feelings, perspectives, needs, and concerns for their student. At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce Donna Dobson, Director of Elementary Education.
Good evening. Recognizing the significant disruption our students have overcome, our focus has been and will continue to be on safe, supportive, and positive environments so we can really dig into the important academic work, which will take time. Here's how we'll accomplish the initial steps with more in our Academic Acceleration and Recovery Plan to come. Teachers are adjusting lessons to focus on foundational reading skills as our top priority. That includes elevating our remote engagement with live-streamed or synchronous reading instruction. Math lessons will provide more time for numeracy skills. That's another foundational skill, understanding what numbers mean and interpreting and communicating math skills to solve real-world problems, which will open the door to accelerated instruction to come. And adjusting time throughout the day for more individualized instruction and reteaching. At this time, I'll turn this over to Susan Christofferson from Secondary Education.
Good evening. Thank you, Donna. At the secondary level, we are concentrating on research-based best practices to support our students during this unusual time in education to accelerate their learning. Students will receive Students will receive individualized supports to help them master the content of a class or a concept in a lesson before the grading period ends. We're expanding credit recovery, including enrichment and new course availability during the summer, to open options for students during the traditional school year. And as a district, we have continued to maintain our focus on math, even through the pandemic. We are using Khan Academy to help keep a laser focus on individual needs of students. The resource allows teachers to reteach material and review concepts, and students can then also take the opportunity to utilize the resource for their own benefit when they see the need fit. I would like now to introduce Dr. Fatima Fulmore, Principal Supervisor.
Good evening. The data presented today ignites the fire in us to do more and to do better. The pandemic presented many challenges that will take some time to overcome. Yet our resilience will continue to be met with extraordinary action that prioritizes the well-being of our students and their achievement to higher levels. To do this well, schools are engaging in solutions to meet the learning needs of our students in 5 important ways. This includes implementing systems to keep students on track by creating opportunities for students to reflect on their grades and allowing them to make up work, recover credits, and receive support through intervention, tutoring, and individualized instruction. By partnering with families to improve student learning, monitoring student progress, and routinely sharing performance data, we create opportunities for families to intervene before students fail. Through this partnership, we further extend our resources into the home and move students forward together. Integrating social and emotional learning strategies and resources by working collaboratively with our student services team to create safe, supportive, and inclusive learning environments. Through frequent check-in and check-outs with students, teachers can better understand student safety concerns, trauma, and feelings about their learning. Strengthening our relationships with students gives us insight on ways we can individualize supports and appropriately deploy our resources. Focusing on student learning tasks to ensure students are immersed in grade-level work aligned to student-friendly learning goals and the rigor of our curriculum and standards. The task predicts performance and expands the ways by which students demonstrate their understanding. Creating student-centered classrooms and schedules. By incorporating highly engaging lessons, we enhance the ways students access content and create opportunities for students to learn together and from one another. Our focus on high interest and future-ready courses adds value to the student experience by increasing ownership of their future opportunities and connecting them to school in meaningful ways. The work in our school is comprehensive and will continue over the course of our academic acceleration and recovery plan to come. While the pandemic may have disrupted our progress, it has not derailed our commitment. The measure of our fortitude in education is how we rise to the occasion and do what's best for our students. With compassion, high expectations, unwavering support, and collective impact, we can deliver on our promise of every student, every day, prepared for success. This concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fulmore. Any questions from board members? Ms. Crackey.
When it comes to test scores, I recall getting them given to the board. So I would like to have a synopsis of the actual test scores of the different grade levels, not with everything else that you said. I'd like to see that. And then when will you return to us in a semester or earlier and telling us some updates so we know that it is happening? Because we need to know what is happening.
Thank you, Mrs. Crackey. Mr. Head.
Thank you, Dr. Holman. So did I understand you correctly when you said the remote students weren't tested this past year?
Yes, there was a decision made that the remote students would not be tested this year.
Okay, and do we know, did any of our neighbor districts test remote students, or do we know how other districts address that?
Some districts did decide to do that, but we made a district decision to not do that due to many factors that we heard from other districts as well, that parents weren't used to proctoring a test, the standardization of the administration, those types of things, helping parents troubleshoot in case there was a technological difficulty or a difference with the test.
Okay, no, it makes sense. And is that going to be readdressed going forward if we stay with a quarter of the students being remote? Is that going to be readdressed to potentially test them this time around?
We'll relook at it
Okay.
with the new plan.
And it's also my understanding that MAP testing is done for 9th and 10th grade and also science. Did we not do that this year? I missed it on the presentation. So.
We did not do science this year.
Okay.
But it is given at some of the limited basis for 9th and 10th grade.
Okay. And were their numbers fairly similar to the other grades, or do you know offhand?
I'd have to look.
Okay. Awesome. Let's see. And then looking at, I know we mentioned that we were specifically pulled out students who are failing. What metric did we use for failing? Was it just specifically Fs, or was it Ds and Fs, or?
It was 2 or more course failures.
Okay. And so that's just having an F in the class then.
I'm sorry.
So a failure is just having an F in the course then.
Correct.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Let's see. And then I guess my last question is I just agree with Mrs. Kratke. Would it be possible to just kind of get a breakdown of across all grade levels, just what we've been seeing over even the past couple school years, as far as what the breakdown of grades is, A, B, C, D, and F?
Okay.
So we can just
Yeah,
kind
we
of
can
look
show
at the
you a
trend lines.
comparison, Mr. Head. We can certainly show you a comparison year over year so that you can see that we use 2 or more course failures in secondary because that's a real indication that a child is in some particular distress.
Okay.
So that's where that is. I kind of want to address the not testing students at home. As we move forward, we may think about other ways we may be able to bring those kids in. The issue that people found around the country when they were, and here locally, when they were administering tests at home was more support than would be the standard that you would have in the classroom. So that was a reason that we did not do that. I can share with you that one of my colleagues in another district had 40% increase in scores for the students that tested at home. So it was particularly problematic with that. Well-meaning, you help your kid. If they're sitting next to you, you're going to help your kid. That makes complete sense, certainly logical. But if we want to be able to get a measure, I think another thing that is really important for the board is looking at the MAP scores, that those reflect the students that are in school, and that students who are higher performing are more likely to be the students that are in school, and students that are lower performing are students that are more likely to be fully remote. And so that is very important when you think about 40% of the students in high school, a little over 25% in elementary school. It really is another call to action for us in terms of how we need to move forward.
Thank you, Dr. Logan. I
You're
appreciate the
welcome.
information.
Sure.
And so I guess one other question then tailing on to that, is there a specific plan to address remote students versus in-person students? I know specifically looking at the middle school data, the remote students are roughly 11% behind where the in-person students are. So is there any specific plan address that and maybe give them extra attention to help those students catch up?
One of the things is to speak to their, to have, Melissa, you can come to the podium. I'm just going to, just to talk with their parents about how they are not performing remotely. We realize that we have families that have specific medical conditions, and which is the reason why, but in the cases where we can encourage our families to be in person, I know that all of our schools have been calling families to, of students who are not doing well, to encourage them to come in person if they're not able to perform remotely. And I think that that's just going to be a part of us moving forward. One of the reasons that we talked about this being at least a three-year recovery was because we are not exactly sure when some students will continue to begin to come in person. So we can expect a large number of students to remain remote for the balance of this school year, which means they would have been out of school for one and a quarter full school years at that time.
And then to add to that, the same strategies that are being implemented, they're being implemented for all students, whether they are part of the current Family 3-2, the 5-day in-person, or remote students. And part of that is also redirecting resources depending on the needs in your school. So for example, some of our schools who have additional paraprofessionals or other staff, they have allocated and directed those staffs to work directly with the remote students, and then the other staff in school are working with the students in front of them. And so same strategies across the board, but redirecting resources to provide more support and impact for the students who need it, regardless of the learning modality they're in.
Perfect, thank you. And thank you all for the presentation. I really appreciate the information.
Ms. Cassidy?
Thank you, President Holman. Thank you, ladies, first of all. A lot of hard work. I know this has been a huge challenge, and we're not in this alone, of course. The nation is with us, so I'm sure you have lots of resources to go through. Great Council of Great City Schools, and that's fantastic. The one thing that all of you during your presentation, the common theme that I heard every single one of you say is time. That recovery will not be instant. It will take time, and it will be ongoing. So thank you for saying that. I hope that all of those out there listening, our parents, our students, our teachers, keep that in mind. As a parent, Dr. Logan, I'm with you. What you said earlier, I was trying really hard to not do a second grade math test yesterday. I tried so hard, and I just wanted to, some of it I didn't know. I'm just teasing. But it is very difficult. And I have the advantage that I am blessed with being able to work from home right now. So I am home with my children, and it is a struggle. Even being home is a struggle. There has not been a day, oh gosh, sad but true, I have probably gotten a phone call every day, a robocall, that one of my children, one of my middle school or high school, not my elementary, thank God, but one of my children has missed a class or been tardy to a class. And you just want to wring their necks, but you can't, because you have to remember the pressure that these kids are under. So I appreciate this presentation. I do have a couple questions, though. First of all, do we know how long this plan is kind of slated to last? Is that a valid question? Or will this just be ongoing until we get to where we need to be?
So I'm going to answer that in two parts. Okay. The first part is longer. Yeah. So the Academic Acceleration and Recovery Plan right now is divided up into a short-term goal, which is to start this summer with summer school of 2021, medium-term goal, which is next school year, the 21-22 school year, as well as the 22 summer school. Okay. And then the long-term goal is the following school year, the 22-23 school year, in addition to the 2023 summer. And then, of course, we always evaluate data along the way. And of course, when 2023 comes, there will be new things that we need to focus on. We'll find those probably out even before the 2023, and we'll make those mid-course corrections to move forward.
Okay, and data is everything, so absolutely. Secondly, this plan is a pretty big buy-in to our teachers, and they are spread thin, and as Mr. Miller said earlier, they have risen to the occasion, and I'm not sure how much more they have, but I hope they can squeeze more. How is this plan going to change teachers, how they teach? Will they be given additional training for adhering to this plan and administering this plan? And I guess, how will that look for our teachers? I'm
Well-
sure there's a lot of teachers out there right now asking that same question.
We are, well, first of all, we're in the beginning. We have not, we set up the framework.
Okay.
We kind of
No,
are
that's
looking
valid.
at medium, short-term, medium, and long. We know that summer is really important. One thing we talked about, already, that Ms. Comine mentioned is she has been already meeting with some teacher groups, but we're creating a kind of a work group to drive it. They, obviously, we have the responsible people, myself, Mrs. Comine, and the folks here that head divisions. But we really feel that it will be the people that are closest to the work will help us with the design. So we are, like I said, we're just in the beginning stages. We are trying to have our summer program designed by March. So we'll be reaching out to folks soon because it's time sensitive to address, thinking about who may want to work in summer school.
Sure.
Or who may want to work in summer. We have already spoken with Mr. Wakefield and thinking about how we can do job sharing so people don't have to commit for the whole time. Just some other little small things that are in development, so just make sure they're in development.
Right.
Are to be thinking about how families could choose a 1 hour, a 3 hour, or a 6 hour summer school or summer program, and to make it available. Every child will be eligible.
That was my
And
next
obviously, I knew. So every child will be eligible because every child has missed time, regardless of performance level. Now, obviously, we will have to look at what our staffing is and to make plan, to adjust there. But one of the reasons that we know that this is a 3-year process is that we will have an opportunity over the next school year to perhaps offer a child one-on-one tutoring, those kinds of things. So it's not, we don't feel that this unfinished learning, that we're going to be able to do all of it by August 1. We are looking at the end of the summer of 23, I think that's where we are, to see how we think about this unfinished learning. Also, thinking about how, and I think this was really important and genius on behalf of that team, was really creating a COVID recovery plan for every child, with the exception of our seniors, because we're super time sensitive, and so schools are doing that work right now. But to do a COVID recovery plan for every child, so that and to have the parent input piece, we're very excited about that, for parents to identify the areas that they are concerned about for their particular child, and that information would be a part of their plan, similar to other kinds of plans that we have for students, but specific for this particular emergency, ongoing emergency. And I think it's really important to continue to highlight, we're still in the middle of it, and but we are hopeful that we'll be able to have more in-person learning as we plan to do next month and moving forward. And so some of those things will also cause adjustment in the timing. Again, you have to be thinking about your workforce, what your workforce can bear, and those kinds of things moving forward.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll probably have more questions later, but just one more question kind of to piggyback off of what you just were speaking of, Dr. Logan. Can you talk a little bit more about the partnering with families and how that will look? I mean, obviously planning stages, but how will you target those families, I guess? How will we find out which families are really needing to give input on their students? will be voluntary?
So it'll be a variety of ways. One, just to underscore, we've just started this process,
Right.
and really our conversations have been on these are the 9.
Okay.
Summer schools are most urgent. And then also making sure that we start with a survey and
Okay.
send it out to our parents to really get their feelings, their perspectives, and their needs. We also have some parent groups coming up next week and the following week, including our DCAC groups. So we'll be starting there, and then we will be adding as well.
Okay. I think parents are probably just
Yes.
encouraged to hear that they'll be a part of the discussion, so.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, understand everything's in planning stages, but so far, great work. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa.
Mr. Thielen?
So listening, it sounds like there's a lot going on, and it sounds like we've got a lot to do. And the question that comes to mind is, is this a question of we're really doing more? Am I? Okay. Are we really asking, to do more, or is this a shift, and what are we shifting away from, if that's the case? Or should we start to anticipate that we need more resources or more staffing, or, Ms. Cassidy pointed out that, staff has limited capacity. How should we start thinking about this shift and what we're shifting away from?
First and foremost is we have learned you don't look in the rearview mirror, we're looking forward. And we know that this brings an opportunity for us to do some of the things that we currently do them better, and then also redesign and reimagine how we can do other things or different things to help our students. And so it is going to be a combination, and we are going to leverage all of the different stakeholders. And some of the focus groups that I've met with, they've already given some really, really, really good ideas. And some of the items that Dr. Logan had mentioned came from some of those focus groups. So for example, when it comes to summer school, we need workforce. We want every student to have an opportunity to attend summer school. We will need teachers. We will need other people to help us provide that workforce. So it's leveraging our own students in our high schools. How can we pay high school students, give them college credit, have them train them, have them come in and work with our students? Some of them are in our Ed Rising program because they want to be a teacher. What a great way to grow your own and give them experience now. We also have a variety of community partners that are willing and are calling and emailing on a daily basis, wanting to support us. So it's taking a look at what are our current resources, but how do we come together, how do we redesign, and how do we make greater impact and depth? Our teachers are our number one staff members that make an impact on student achievement. They can't do it alone. They can't do it all during the day. So we're going to have to look at a variety of ways to do that. And our parents are going to help us understand what their students need, and we can design it around that as well.
Did we get to, yeah, okay. So like I would say with us, with our summer program, it's usually, it's because of the way state reimbursement works. I spoke with our commissioner yesterday to say we're going to need, there are going to be lots of people who don't want their kid to be in school 6 hours, but they want them to have some time. So that's why we started talking about the 1 hour, the 3 hour, the 6 hour model moving forward, and potentially Saturday opportunities using our own students, our high school students, as something that we are very excited about, how we can train them to help students with phonemic awareness and phonics, with drills and that kind of thing. So we are very excited about, and it's going to take a Marshall kind of plan for our school district, and that's what we consider this academic recovery planning.
Ms. Crackey?
One thing I wanted to mention and did not, and Tracy talked about it, I want to know, and this is not right now, it's for years and years and years. Teachers are number one. If we do not have the parent support, of which we do not in quite a few cases, and I would encourage us to brainstorm somehow and get something down in writing where we're going to be able to really have our parent help us. We talk a lot about it, but what are we going to do about it? I know that other areas and schools in bigger districts, they do sign contracts to some extent with them. And I don't know what it's going to take, but whatever it is, we need to do that. Because in other districts where parents are readily available, some of ours are not. And if our parents need to come in to help know what they're doing with them above a certain grade level, they will not be able to help them. And so those other plans you're talking about are going to work. But I think we surely need to get those parents on board with us some way or another and hold them to the, we talked about holding them to the fire. Years and years have gone on. If you don't have the parent behind you, the child's not going to get the work done. They aren't following up and coming to school. The attendance is poor. So as just one board member, and I imagine everybody feels this way, we really want our parents to be involved more in some cases. We know there are hovering parents, and then there are some we never see. So I don't know all the answers for that. So I'm kind of putting it out there to all of us think about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll update you, and what month is this? Where are we in right now? In January. We'll update you in early March at our first March meeting as to where we are with our planning, and obviously through our board updates, I'll give you information about how it's moving along.
Ms. Erdenberger?
Thank you. And I just got to say, I'm really proud to be part of a district that is not just thinking, how do we get to the end of the year, but how do we address something that our kids have been tackling and teachers have been tackling for the last year. So thinking forward, I think, is essential and forward thinking. Thank you. With that in mind, while the district is looking towards the summer of 2023 as how long it might take to recover who knows what over the course of from the last year, I can assure you that the teachers are looking forward to summer of 2021, crawling towards that deadline. I mean, that finish line hasn't, anybody that's a parent or a teacher knows what summer break is like, and this is going to be a summer break like no other in terms of recovery. So I am, in fact, very concerned about people being willing to work over the summer, frankly, and hopefully to the extent that that's a key part of this program, we are going to start looking into who is realistically going to be available to do that. I know that in most summers, teachers are like, great, I'll do what I always do, I'll do it for a couple extra weeks, and I'll make some money. My guess is the teachers are not going to feel that way so much this summer. I could be wrong, but if it was me, I wouldn't want to, I would need the downtime. One of the things that you talked about was sort of individualizing the recovery program for each student, and I had an opportunity to talk to the superintendent about that a little bit a couple days ago, but I guess my question is to share with people, you know, we've got, what, 50,000+ kids. Presumably almost all of them are behind at some point or another. How could they not be? And what is the methodology? I recognize you haven't solved every problem yet, but what's the methodology for connecting with each of these kids and being able to individualize where they are and what they might need?
So it starts, we've had conversations with our research office, and then also at the beginning of this academic acceleration and recovery plan. And we've always utilized data, triangulation of data, to determine who was a part of summer school. Teachers do it all the time at the beginning of the year, even a part of our other pieces that we do. So we're going to look at what we've always done, and our research office has encouraged us to look at it even more broadly. And so we will work with them to first determine what are the different data measurement tools we're going to take a look at. We do have some experience, and we do some individualized plans within our district already, so we can take a look at that. We also need to leverage the technology that we've purchased And as we continue to take a look at different platforms or LMS systems, how can we store each student's individualized plan so that it follows them throughout their educational career?
I guess I didn't doubt that we couldn't collect the data to sort of identify what the learning issues are as a result of the pandemic. It was more a question of we have a whole menu of ways to make it up. Different periods of time over the summer. It sounds to me like it requires talking to 50,000 families, or probably not that many because many have more than one kid, but I guess that's kind of, if you have had a chance to brainstorm about how do you reach out to all of those families and tell this kid we think, you know, an extra hour every day would probably do it, and this kid 3, and this kid 6, and this kid, you know, here's a work packet, we think you're pretty close to being up to speed, so you just get this done over the summer, or whatever else we're doing. It's that individualization that I'm kind of just really curious about.
Right. So usually what schools or districts do, you look at your overall data. If you're finding a need for many students or all students, then you will provide an intervention or additional learning time for all students. And so there's the whole group response.
Mm-hmm.
And then you take a look at your data and you continue to disaggregate it, and you determine, okay, now what type of small group supports do we need? And then you continue to break that down and what type of one-on-one. And so it is work that we're used to doing. We're just going to do it at scale. And one thing we have learned in the pandemic, how to do things at scale pretty quickly. And so I do have confidence and faith in our staff as well as our families that we can get that done.
I guess it's kind of like what Mrs. Kratky brought up, the family part of it, because, you know, you're going to have to call Mrs. Cassidy and say, one of your kids needs to be in summer school 6 hours every day. And those are tough. I mean, it's just that process that I'm assuming is on your to-do list someplace. The other thing I was going to mention, and this follows up on another comment that Mrs. Cassidy had, is what you've described teachers doing over the course of the next 2.5 years in their classrooms to compensate for the disaster of the crisis we've been in for the last almost full year. Focused, if I took my notes correctly, and I probably did, adjusting lessons, a lot more individualized care for the kids, and, you know, being in the classroom, individualizing, reviewing, reteaching, monitoring their mental health, and reaching out to parents. There's not a single person on the planet that wouldn't say, that's great. That's a really, yeah, we do need to do all of that stuff. I'd be willing to bet that there's also not a teacher on the planet that says, I can take on more work. And all of that, frankly, sounds like more work. So I guess you got to do what you got to do. Kind of going back to we're in school 5 days now, or we will be, because our education is a priority. And I think we can all agree that there's some balancing of issues that took place to be able to do that.
I think, Mrs. Erdenberger, one of the reasons that we are saying that it's going to take we see this over 3 years is because we are acknowledging that you know, there are certainly a certain number of hours in the day. Certainly we all need some recovery time. And we are even anticipating that as many students as will need or for whom summer learning would be a good idea, they won't all be available. So we have to, we need a little bit more time because we just started working on our plan. But
you should just have a sign to hold up period.
Oh, well, no, that's okay. I know, but I think that is going to be, the devil will be in the details of designing a plan that will be flexible enough to accommodate where families are, where our workforce is in terms of our folks who work in the classroom, our teachers and paraprofessionals, our school leaders, all of that taken into account. So. And on the first meeting in March, I'll give an update to the community as well as the team will give an update to the community about where we've landed at that point, and we should be, have our summer and be able to understand what our summer workforce is going to look like, because that's also a piece of it, making the adjustments with people being able to job share, like to your point, I want to work 2 weeks, I want to work 1 week, I want to work half days or whatever, and to be ready to implement something for the summer. We also don't know what the health conditions are going to be like in the summer, right? So we have all of those things we have to be able to plan as much as we can, and then understand that we'll have to adjust based on whatever is going on in our community and where our community is in terms of the willingness to whatever. There's no doubt that teachers are committed and want to do what's best, but sometimes what's best will be for us to rest, and we do realize that will be a part of the planning moving forward.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm focusing on is I know that we are putting more things that are a higher level of engagement on the plates of our teachers, and you can never find something to take off the plate. I mean, there's just nothing that they're doing that isn't essential to the process, but I just, hopefully that as we're preparing for what they're expected to do in the classroom starting next fall, that we have some way of acknowledging that what they've been through. I'm just going to take this moment to say, I have heard from a lot of people about, I'm sorry about this, Dr. Logan, why isn't Dr. Logan getting us the vaccines? And I just would like to take this moment to say, Dr. Logan does not have the vaccines. Dr. Logan talks to everybody she can think of that might have the vaccines, but she hadn't found that person yet. And now that us people over 65 are on the list, teachers dropped even farther down. And where we thought, I think as Mr. Miller referred to, we thought that the vaccines were coming January, maybe February. As those of us that are working in this area know, we're talking June maybe is the last we heard anyway. Unless Dr. Logan looks, in that closet in her basement and goes, oh, here they are. But anyway, I just wanted to take that moment to communicate to people that care so much that it wasn't that, oh, well, let's just do it even though we don't have the vaccines yet. We really don't have the vaccines yet. And then you have to weigh what's going on in our classrooms. Thank you. Sorry about that little detour.
Well, since you brought it up, we did have a call today with the Council of Great City Schools and our new Deputy Secretary of Education select this morning. I didn't even share. I should have sent you all an email, but we did have a call this morning. We were able to share some of our concerns about that. I was one of the superintendents who spoke up to share concerns about that and how a national strategy is needed. So that did actually happen this morning. So,
Thank you. I would like to just applaud Dr. Logan, you all, and anyone else who has had any involvement with the development of at least the beginning stages of the development of our academic recovery plan. I can tell you that I'm super thrilled about this and seeing it come to fruition, and also that just to share that we are certainly strides ahead of our counterparts in the Council of Great City Schools. As I shared the components of this plan, and other school districts, all they had was summer school. And so they were very interested in hearing what we're doing. They asked for a copy of what we're doing just to get some information and figure out how they can start beginning to plan for an actual plan. And so I'm certainly looking forward to this, and I appreciate you all for the presentation tonight. Okay. All righty. Moving on now to item J2B, information regarding Omaha Public Schools, college and career academies and pathways.
Before Susan and Delane, Mr. Havlovic and Ms. Christopherson get started, I would like to thank them for their work. They had to do the majority of this work. This work started, I remember it was February. We had a snowstorm and last year. And then the next month we went completely virtual, and they completed this work with groups reaching out. Now the surveying and things like that happened in the fall of 2019 when we got the initial report, but the majority of this work has had to happen while we have been virtual. And we couldn't just say we're going to stop, because we were about to open 2 new high schools, and we wanted to make sure that our existing high schools also had the opportunity to examine the programming that they have and to make choices as a high school about how they wanted to move forward. We do have 2 of our school leaders here, Dr. Colette Nero, the principal of North High School, Go Vikings, and Mr. Tom Wagner, ladies first, and Mr. Tom, I know Benson is alphabetical, but Benson High School principal, Mr. Tom Wagner, Go Bunnies. So the 2 of them will be here as well to answer questions about how schools engaged in the process. Even though Dr. Nero was onboarding, she was engaged in the process because we knew very early on that she was going to be the principal there. So some of the concerns a few of them that we heard this evening, they will be able to speak to that as a school leader on how they engaged their staffs and others in the process and how they themselves were engaged. I think it's a very important point, so thank you.
Thank you. Well, good evening again, President Dr. Holman, Vice President Erdenberger, members of the Board of Education, Superintendent Dr. Logan, staff, and those in the audience and watching from home. We are very happy to be here this evening to share this evolution of career education for the students we serve. My name is Melissa Colmine, and I'm the proud Chief Academic Officer of Omaha Public Schools. Tonight with me is Susan Christopherson, Director of Secondary Education, Delane Havelick, Coordinator of K-12 Career Education and Programming, and from our District Communications team, Kayla Morrissey, Coordinator of Marketing and Visual Information. And as Dr. Logan mentioned, we also have with us tonight Dr. Colette Nero, Principal at North High, and Mr. Tom Wagner, Principal at Benson High. As part of our district strategic plan of action, this work began with a future focus. Dr. Rebecca Ryan, a renowned futurist and economist, led groups of staff, supporters, and community members through conversations about what our community will need, looking all the way to 2040 and beyond. Our staff conducted an intensive review of data coupled with an audit of our high school programs. That audit presented opportunities for stronger engagement with our students, going more in depth with content and a more specific focus. Every part of this is designed to grow student success, to engage and motivate students in high school, then connect the dots to a high-skill, high-wage, and in-demand job after graduation. We also know a student's interest may change into adulthood, which is why skills are transferable. They are aligned with our district portrait of a graduate. The portrait also grew out of our strategic plan of action. It outlines the essential abilities for each student as they conclude their time in the Omaha Public Schools. According to the Coalition for Career Development, many students leave high school without a clear plan for the future. Approximately a third of high school graduates do not enter college right away and struggle to find meaningful work. Many that do go back to college lack direction and eventually drop out. Approximately 60% of first-time university students finish within 6 years. Students attending a community college graduate only 30% in 3 years. The U.S. has the highest college dropout rate in the industrialized world. As a result, student debt has soared, and many students do not have a degree or a high-wage, high-skill, in-demand job to sustain the payments. In the Omaha Public Schools, we want to ensure that students have a clear plan as they conclude their time in Omaha Public Schools. The Omaha Public Schools College and Career Academies and Pathways will do this for our students. A variety of stakeholder input and hands-on work has occurred since the inception of this plan and will continue to happen throughout the plan. On the slide, you can see the chronological order of the process and input to date regarding our work on academies and pathways. The input process started over a year ago as we engaged with our transformational partner, Steel Dynamics. As part of that process, all of our high school and program leadership teams completed an open-ended questionnaire about their school's current career-focused programming. School staff also submitted information regarding their current schedules, school layout, and school handbooks. District-level staff also completed a questionnaire regarding programming. After gathering information from the questionnaires, Steel Dynamics staff toured our schools and conducted focus groups at each high school. Focus groups were with the leadership team, counselors, teachers, and students. During this same period of time, OPS provided Steel Dynamics with completed data reviews of each of our high schools. Steel Dynamics then shared their findings with district staff, principals, and program directors. Steel Dynamics and CIS staff met one-on-one with each principal and program director to engage in individual conversations to listen, learn, and gather more input about each school and their programming moving forward. Based on the information and input received from our principals and program directors, we reviewed high-wage, high-skill, and in-demand data from the Nebraska Department of Labor and the U.S. Department of Labor. We also worked with local business and industry advisory focus groups. Principals and program directors then had the opportunity to provide feedback about their evolution of programming. Adjustments were made as needed and requested. School leadership team meetings then occurred with each high school's leadership team regarding each high school's programming and pathway models. Principals then met with their individual staff to share the programming plans for the future. While the school work continued, a survey was developed to understand the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of high school programming from the perspective of parents, teachers, community members, and students. We received over 2,000 responses. Delane Havlick and Kayla Morrissey led the work of the brand team, which was created to engage a variety of internal and external stakeholders that helped us to outline how best to inform families of this exciting opportunity, market to student, and celebrate student accomplishments. We worked with school leadership and staff to begin the process of developing a course of study for pathways at each school. We completed visits at each high school to observe career-focused learning in action and engage in conversations with school leaders. School teams began to work through building the schedule design for each academy and pathway and provide necessary supports to students. School teams are currently focusing on next steps that include the development of the Freshman Academy, implementation of new pathway programs, and making plans to support any needed training for academy or pathway courses and programs. During second semester, schools and CIS will partner to implement their Freshman Academy, will focus on research and development of pathway content, and will participate in professional learning. A business engagement model will begin in the spring of 2021, and we will talk more about what that business engagement model will look like later in this presentation. At the beginning of the 21-22 school year, freshman academies will launch with the arrival of the class of 2025 into our high schools. A phased rollout of academies and pathways will begin. As you can see, there is a lot of work that has been done over the last year. We will continue to gather stakeholder input and collaborate with various groups as we implement this work over the next 4 years. Now I would like to invite Delane Havelick to the podium to share more in-depth information about academies and pathways.
Thank you, Mrs. Comine. I am enthused to be here tonight to share all of this with you. As we begin to talk about specific programs in the Omaha Public Schools, I want to ensure that we have a shared understanding of career education, academies, and pathways with these definitions. Career education provides students with necessary academic, technical, college and career readiness skills for post-secondary education, employment, the armed services, and civic readiness. Pathways are a series of 4 or more classes focused on a group of related careers or cluster. Students in a pathway take classes with a wide range of other students across career interests. Academies are a smaller learning community with a career focus. Groups of students with similar career interests take classes together. Career-focused classes proceed from one to the next in a series. An important component of the Omaha Public Schools college and career academies and pathways is business engagement. We know it is important for our students to have real-world experiences that relate to real-world businesses. Our pathways and academies provide us with opportunities to engage our business community to ensure what students are learning and their hands-on experiences are relevant to their potential future careers. We are looking forward to increasing the number of local businesses that we partner with to provide us input on curriculum, to share their expertise with students, and to provide insight on industry best practices. As both a staff member supporting this project and a parent of a student in the Omaha Public School District that is about to enter high school, I'm excited about these opportunities that lie ahead. We are going to bring that work to life in a moment, but first we want to introduce you to Pathale Way, a student that is currently engaged in one of our academy programs. As we discussed in the Portrait of a Graduate, we want to share a story of a student that meets these qualities of our Portrait of a Graduate. Pathale's story illustrates an academy focus can enrich high school for a student and propel them into college, career, and life. Pathale's family is from Burma, and they were forced to flee when she was very, very young. After several years in a refugee camp, her family came to Omaha in 2013. As a current senior at Benson High School, Pathale is part of the already strong and nationally recognized Health Professions Academy. At Benson, the Freshman Academy centered skills for success in high school that led her to taking, during her sophomore years and beyond, an Intro to Health Foundations course, then a medical chemistry course, and psychology classes as well. The Academy opened doors to a certification for her as well as a nursing assistant while still in high school. These opportunities extend outside of the classroom as well. Pathale volunteers at CHI Emmanuel and has joined a health professions student organization called HOSA. She's actually their chapter president. Pathale has access to advanced courses like AP Government and Journalism. All that Pathale is going through now is helping her prepare to study in college and beyond. She is currently looking at Harvard, the University of Nebraska at Omaha, and the University of Nebraska at Lincoln. She wants to become a medical professional and serve in the refugee community, representing and supporting those around her. Pathale and her family are watching from home tonight. I'm thrilled to be able to share the story of her with you all this evening, and we are very OPS proud of you. The evolution takes what Pathale Way was able to experience and broadens it throughout our entire district. We have high aspirations and expectations. What students learn today will directly connect them to what they can do tomorrow and beyond. The focus areas align with trends and workforce needs anticipated by the Nebraska Department of Labor. National research shows that students who participate in academies have improved attendance, grades, and graduation rates. It shows that 2/3 of academy graduates go on to college or participated in career-specific training after high school. In the state of Nebraska, students who complete 3 or more courses in a career and technical education sequence graduate at an average rate 10% higher than those who do not participate in a career and technical education sequence while in high school. This is regardless of age, ethnicity, or gender. While looking at the same data for Omaha Public Schools, we actually exceed that with an average rate of 11% higher than those who do not. Have to switch. So before we get into our portfolio of high schools across our district, I'm going to share a short video with you that outlines these updates. This is actually voiced by our own students. So I'm going to pause this and transition to our video.
Today, we're high school students, but Omaha Public Schools know that we're tomorrow's workforce, the professionals, entrepreneurs, and innovators who will keep our community moving forward.
That's why our school district is expanding opportunities in all of our high schools to make learning more meaningful and grow the skills we need for what's next.
It's the Omaha Public Schools College and Career Academies and Pathways.
At Academy Schools, we can choose a career theme like health, finance, manufacturing, computer science, and more.
We still study math, English, social studies, and science, but it's with a career-centered focus.
Our academy is a small learning community with a career focus. Classes proceed from one to the next in a series. Groups of students with a similar career interest take career-focused classes together.
That means stronger connections with classmates and courses, since we share the same interests.
In a pathway, we take a series of 4 or more classes focused on a group of related careers or a career cluster. We have the opportunity to take classes with a wide range of other students across career interests. Ultimately, it's what we make of it.
At every high school, 9th graders start in a freshman academy. They'll learn skills for success in high school, explore career opportunities, and even visit colleges. Whatever academy or pathway we choose, our classes will focus on real-world lessons based on real-world companies. We may also learn in the real world through job shadows or internships.
When classroom lessons connect to a career I care about, that makes my day at school more interesting and engaging. So whether I'm going right into the workforce, serving in our military, or pursuing post-secondary education, I'm ready. Prepared to excel in college, career, and life.
I am OPS proud. Find out more, get involved, visit ops.org.
And we are proud of our students who helped facilitate that video for us tonight. And me being able to close the video are the same transferable skills that we want our students to be able to attain. It worked. All right. Kind of. There we go. Each of our high schools will be organizing their program in either an academy or a pathway model. To reference our previous definition, a pathway is a series of 4 or more classes focused on a group of related careers, or cluster. Students in a pathway take classes with a wide range of other students across career interest. Academies are a smaller learning community with a career focus. Groups of students with a similar career interest take classes together. Career-focused classes proceed from one to the next in a series. According to a George Washington University study, smaller learning communities provide support to Career Academy students through collaborative teams within a focused area of study where students will see connections between disciplines and the real world. Smaller learning communities also increase a sense of belonging, community support, and support to the students' connectedness to the school. In order to foster that continued connectedness, each school will have a freshman academy. As students transition from middle school to high school, students in a freshman academy will learn skills for success, explore career opportunities, and visit colleges. All of our high schools will continue to have advanced placement and dual enrollment options. Benson High School is illustrated on the slide in front of you or next to me. You'll be able to see the programming opportunities at each high school. Benson High School will continue academies in the areas of health professions, design and construction, and business entrepreneurship. Benson High will also have a Cambridge program. For our schools that have Cambridge, it is an internationally recognized program with a high level of research-based rigor. More than 10,000 schools are part of the International Cambridge Network. Cambridge provides high-level and globally recognized programming to some of the most diverse schools and is good for all students. With strong exposures to multiple languages and cultures, and students can complete assessments in their native language. Bryan High School will expand their academies to include design and construction, transportation, distribution, and logistics, teaching and leadership, and urban agriculture. Bryan High will also add Cambridge. Burke High School will have academies in the areas of air and space, leadership, and communication. Central High School is a pathway school, and their areas of focus are arts and leadership. Central High will also continue its International Baccalaureate program. North High School will have academies in the areas of engineering and design, science and research, and computer science and technology. Northwest will have pathways in public and community service. Northwest will also initiate an early college program. South High School will have pathways in the performing and visual arts and technology and media arts. South High will also have a Cambridge program and will continue their dual language program. And finally, I need to share as well that plans are underway for our two new high schools. Our new high school at 60th and L Street will have pathways in the areas of smart technology, and they will have a Cambridge program as well. Smart technology includes concepts like artificial intelligence, virtual reality, mechatronics, automation and robotics, as well as computer information, and how we bring all of those concepts together in our homes, businesses, and lives. Our new school at 156th and Ida Streets will have pathways in the areas of health, sustainability, and business. Oh, to be in high school again, to have all those opportunities. As we implement the academies and pathways, we are being very deliberate to provide our schools adequate time for implementation. Next year, the class of 2025, our current 8th graders, will start with a freshman academy. Those freshmen will determine their pathway focus to begin their sophomore year. In some cases, we already have existing pathway or academy programs. Next year's sophomores will be able to begin a focus based on those offerings as well. In years 2, 3, and 4, the class of 2025 will begin any new or existing pathway offerings in their area of interest and focus. This will provide our staff time to implement new courses and enhance current program offerings. Students in the classes of 2022, 2023, and 2024 will have the opportunity to enroll in pathway-specific courses as well without being part of that 4-year academy process that the class of 2025 will be. In year 4, our current 8th graders, when they are seniors, they'll be the first group of pathway or academy concentrators, and they will graduate that year. They will complete a senior level capstone experience closely connected to their pathway area. Throughout this entire process, curriculum and instruction support, district communications, and our high schools will collaborate closely together to regularly update staff and families on this progress, to market opportunities to families, and to celebrate what our students accomplish. So I'd like to end tonight with one more story. These are two Omaha Public School students who are about to begin their high school journey. Zach and his best friend Callum are 8th graders who have been best friends since kindergarten. They are your typical middle schoolers. They enjoy sports, activities, lots and lots of video games, and sometimes it's a struggle for them to see how homework connects to high school, college, and career. Both students visited high schools virtually this month and see all that's ahead of them. At any high school they choose, Freshman Academy will help them transition successfully from middle to high school. They'll explore careers by picking a pathway or academy area for their sophomore through senior years. Both students also enjoy performing arts, technology, speech, and world languages. They will have those opportunities at all of our high schools as well, no matter what they choose. Like our tagline says, "My story starts here," Zach and Callum are about to begin this new chapter of their stories. I'm Zach's dad, and I'm really excited about all that is ahead for him and his friends and all of our students in Omaha Public Schools. I know we have a wide range of opportunities in core classes, career classes, and extracurriculars as well. These will teach him transferable skills for what may need to lie ahead. This concludes our presentation. We thank you for your engagement with us this evening.
Dr. Nero and Mr. Wagner, if you could come up, board members may want to ask some questions if you want to talk a little bit about how your schools were engaged in the process of, both of you are academy schools, and how you decided to go out. Mr. Wagner, you were already existing academy school, and Dr. Nero's school decided to become an academy school, so if you can talk a little bit about both of those.
So, yeah, we've been, this is, for us at Benson, this is almost a little bit of old hat. We've had a freshman academy. 2 years ago was the first graduating class of the freshman academy that saw 4 years of it, and we saw a nice bump in our graduation. The last two have stayed the same, but it was definitely noticeable that first graduating class that saw freshman academy and then 3 years of a career academy. I have enjoyed working with the students. Pathlewa, who you saw recognized there, is fantastic. But it gives our kids an idea of what's out there. So many of them live, even more so now today, just in a day-to-day, minute-to-minute, passing period to passing period kind of life. And for them to get a feel for what is out there and get them to see what their life can be like outside of high school, if anything, it gives them ideas of what they don't want to do, because many of them don't know what they want to do. They don't know what's out there, and we're exposing them to different opportunities that are high wage, high demand, high skill, things that will prepare them for college or career or the military. All of those skills transferring over. We're using this as preparation for after high school.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner.
Yeah.
Dr. Nero?
Good evening, everyone. I will say that I feel like I won the lottery when I was named principal at North High, because I've come in at the right time. The school before me was already heading down this path. They had pathways already developed and cultivated, and were continuing those plans of study. And then the strategic plan comes into place right at the time when we had also just finished accreditation, Steel Dynamics was becoming involved. All of the data really converged on, we really need to do something like this, formalize it, strengthen it. And then I get to become the new principal, so it's been really exciting. So one of the things fortunate for us is that a lot of the teachers or the staff have been aware. I mean, we're known for being the STEM school, if you will. So those conversations have been had, and we get to further those. One of the things that we've been very strategic about is making sure that we keep moving despite everything that's going on. We take our time because we want to do it right, not just right now. And one of the biggest things, and you might hear questions about it, is people will say, well, what does this mean for me? I have always done things this way. This is a little bit new and different. So one of the things I've been trying to emphasize with my staff, and I encourage you to use this, is that although it's a shift in service delivery, it's not a shift in service. We all are still going to do what we do. We're going to do great things for students to help them develop academic, socially, emotionally, behaviorally. We're all going to carry the load. How you carry it might look a little different. And that's one of the things that we're working through with staff, is that the way things are structured, the team components, really wrapping our arms around our freshmen, and then developing those academies to really kind of engulf those students in those experiences, looks a little different from what you've typically done in high school. You've taught your content, you've collaborated maybe with your content area colleagues, but really we're building teams that are surrounding and supporting a group of students. Looks different, but I think everybody will agree it's a shift in service delivery, but it's not a shift in service.
So, and for me, it's personally a full circle, so to speak. When I was a practicing school psychologist, I used to write this line in my reports as a recommendation. You need to provide the student with real-world experiences so that they can make a connection between high school and future endeavors. That's what this does. It makes what they're doing relevant, important, and gets them ready for the next step. I certainly wish, as Elaine was saying, that I had this opportunity. One of the other concerns, we're very mindful of our community, and we don't want students to feel trapped at North. We want them to know that they're going to get a great core education. Even if engineering, science, technology is not your thing, you're going to get problem-solving skills, critical thinking skills. You're going to learn how to cope with frustration and overcome it. That is going to serve you well no matter what you decide to do. So students that aren't able to go to another school that maybe has something more in line, although we are doing as a district to try to provide those opportunities, they're still going to get a great experience at North. And so when you hear people expressing those fears, well, maybe they're not into that, or they can't go somewhere else, or my child is into the arts, we'll still have those core things that students that we know help make them well-rounded. So I'm happy to entertain any other questions or for the group, but just really excited about what's happening at North.
Thank you, Dr. Nera and Mr. Wagner. Colleagues, do you have any questions for the principals in particularly, so that way they can get going if they want to? Ms. Cassidy?
I guess this can probably be for our principals, maybe Benson. I love the Freshman Academy.
Yeah.
I think that's what a great idea. I did not know until you just spoke that you have already been 2 years?
Yeah, this is our 7th or 8th year.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't have it in high school, so.
I feel the same way. When I
Yeah.
was at South High, I was the freshman administrator for 5 years. And so there is something there, that's probably, not probably, that's the most important grade in any high school, I feel. They've got the most skin left in the game. They're going to make the changes. They're going to be there for the longest time of any group of students. And if we can hook them freshman year, there's all sorts of research and data out there that a successful freshman year is going to lead in
So
many
I'm
cases.
curious about it, though. Is it like a separate class that the freshmen all take?
No.
How is it facilitated, I guess?
It works in almost like teams.
Okay.
They have there's a common group of teachers working together to supply them with in most cases, their core curriculum, math, science, social studies, and English, and then a freshman class. And so it's a common group of teachers that all of the freshmen have for those content areas. They'll leave the academy in many cases for maybe PE or some electives, but the majority of their schedule is spent with a common group of teachers.
Okay. Well, it's a fabulous
Yeah.
idea. Do we currently do Freshman Academy at any other schools? Okay. I suppose if I don't know, there's probably others. that
Yeah,
don't.
there are others. I know that Bryan High School attended the Freshman Success Framework. I think it was my first year I was onboarding. They were attending. Also, the South High School, I believe. Susan knows the answers to this, so let me be quiet.
We have actually, probably the past couple of years, especially after we've seen the success happening at Benson and the fortitude that they have pushed through to explore and really put together a solid model academy that's recognized nationally. We invested, this is the last year that several of our high schools are actually, so all 7 of our high schools are participating or have participated in the National College Success Program through the University of Chicago work. And we have really spent some intense time studying what is the important things that we need to make sure that we are doing to support our 9th graders as they come to us. Dr. Fatima Fulmore is helping to lead and collaborating with our schools in developing what we call the 9 for 9. Here are the 9 things that OPS is doing to make sure that our 9th graders are successful when they come to us, that we're setting a strong foundation for, as Tom said, when they get to that senior year, they're invested, they're engaged, they're a part of the entire school culture. And so we're excited with the collaboration that we're doing with our high schools also on those additional 8. Freshman Academy is 1.
Fantastic. What a great way to, like, as you put it, hook our freshmen and help them to figure out what path they want to go down. So perfect. Thank you.
Questions for? Oh, sure.
I want to add the freshman seminar class that we are going to have our freshmen partake in that was mentioned. We're actually collaborating. Every high school has selected a staff member who's helping to design this class. So we're utilizing research from the University of Chicago, George Washington University, and just their own experience and expertise of understanding what do we need to do to make sure that we're embedding in that class to help them be successful. And so we're excited about that collaboration as well. We have a staff member helping from this end, helping to collaborate with everybody. So I just want to add that.
Any other questions for our guest principals tonight? Okay. Ms. Cracky?
Hi, I just wanted to note the gorgeous Benson book that was given to us a couple of years ago seems like it still applies to what you're doing. I mean, it was just phenomenal. I haven't been able to throw it away because I just look at it. It's really gorgeous. I hope that you can produce something so the other board members could look at that. Yeah, I mean, it's really beautiful. It tells your story. I mean, it's outstanding.
Mr. Head?
Yeah, Dr. Nero, thank you for your comment about, how students at Omaha North, even if, your school's focus isn't necessarily what they're interested in, how they're still going to get a well-rounded education. I really appreciate that, because one of my, I guess, reservations, for lack of a better way to put it, about this is, thinking about the kind of classic liberal arts education. I think back to when I was 14, 15, and I mean, even sometimes still now, I don't really know what I want to do when I grow up. And so it's important to me to make sure that all kids, if they don't necessarily know what academy or pathway or career they want to go into, still have a place in our schools. And so I guess Mr. Wagner then actually, as the school that's already been doing something similar to this for a couple years, what have you seen in the data as far as, ACT scores, test scores, just overall metrics as far as, how students are doing? Are they still getting a solid, well-rounded education?
Yes, and it's a slow, extremely slow climb, but it is a climb nonetheless that we've been seeing over the last 4 or 5 years. It's like any building leader, it doesn't go near as fast as we want it to, but we are seeing test scores go up slowly but steadily. We picked up some pretty fantastic momentum last year that got halted in March, but we're not going to let that stop us. But we are seeing increases.
Thank you. I really appreciate both of you.
I just wanted to comment on something. One of the things too you might hear, and I feel the need to equip y'all with these things when you hear people confuse this with tracking or putting people, kids don't know what they want to do. You mentioned you don't always know what you want to do, but these pathways and academies also allow students to figure out what they like, what they don't like for free, right? Because the average freshman or college student changes major 7 times. Wouldn't we love to do some of that for free while they're in high school? So that's another opportunity that these career academies provide. So just something to keep in mind.
Mr. Smith?
And just to add what Mr. Wagner was saying is this gives our students an opportunity to take ownership in their education, and you may not be able to necessarily see the matrix and how it's building out, but when we talk about student engagement, it's a total shift in the climate at Benton, and I really love going there. And I appreciate just the energy when you walk into the building. You can feel that those students really feel supported, and it's making a difference in a way where you might have kids who weren't necessarily engaged in their education at all, and now they can talk about what it is they want to do with teachers who can get them there. So it makes a difference in some ways that aren't necessarily measurable.
Ms. Erdenberger?
Thank you. Of course, my first question is, how are my Vikings doing? Via? Okay, good to know. This is super exciting, and I think that all of us up here are easily persuaded. Obviously, we've already bought into education as important. So it's, you're preaching to the choir here about what a great opportunity this is for everybody. There are some people sitting in the pews, however, that have some questions. As a matter of fact, the people in the pews have a lot of questions. I have a list here of about 50 questions. Now, I'm going to guess you don't want me to go through all 50 of them. And so something did I understand that there's someone here who's sort of the marketing or the, and I don't know if this is appropriate for...
Mr. Maskell and I don't know if Kayla was made aware, but
Okay.
We talked about doing a roadshow. Is that what you were asking about? Mr. Maskell, would you like to talk about, you want to give 2 sentences on that, or 4? But not 5.
Before Mr. Maskell begins, Mr. Wagner and Dr. Nero, if you are ready to leave, you surely may. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
I have just one question for them first.
Okay, that's what we wanted to get done.
Sorry, either one of you. I know one of the things that I'm getting on my list of questions is there is a sense, and maybe this is a Dr. Logan question, I don't know, but how much involvement did your staff, and I mean teachers, I don't mean leadership team, I don't mean counselors, how much involvement did your teachers actually have in this? So I've heard from teachers at both of your schools so far, and they're not the only ones. I've heard from teachers at every school so far, we didn't have anything to say about this. Now, the truth is somewhere in the middle.
Right.
So I'm just asking you how that went down.
I honestly don't know how it went down. In my case at Benson, I came there, and however, I can speak to, I don't know if autonomy is the right word or freedom is the right word, but I feel like many times one of the best things I can do is get out of their way. The teachers and the academies and what they're doing, and as they put together their advisory boards and they meet, I participate, but they run the show for their academies, and I support them.
Of course, you're not switching to this program.
No.
So I guess maybe the question is, and maybe you're not even the right person to, for schools that aren't already committed to this program.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think for me at North, they were already developing these pathways, and even throughout those conversations, this was prior to the larger district effort, you always had pockets of people that really weren't bought in. And then you have people that were gung-ho and they were the first to volunteer. And so you started where you had support, and then you build momentum from there. So I would say that we probably still have some people that maybe haven't bought into that notion, but the conversation has continued. And what I was saying before is that the accreditation, strategic plan, just all of these data points kind of come together, and then I came into the picture. So the guidance, the plans and things like that, the larger big picture was kind of developed and created based on what North was already doing, what we're known for. And then last fall, we had a conversation with the staff to kind of show them high level what these things look like. Now, that shouldn't have been shocking, because the things that are on there are the things that North is known for. We're doing them now. We want to tighten them, strengthen them, further them, advance them. So remember, if you had people that weren't really bought in before, they're still there. We're still working on that. We're still winning them over. But when you look at the end product and what's good for students, that's where we're trying to get to. So I would encourage everyone, I'm a psychologist. I deal with resistance all the time. And I see it as a positive. Whenever I hear people asking questions like that, I'm always trying to figure out, okay, what's really going on here? Is this a can't do, a won't do, not interested? And then I work on that. So after we did that global broad presentation, we followed up with conversations with our curriculum specialists. And I've always said, please come and see me about your concerns. And I've had some good conversations about some of those things. But the flip side, I got a lot more of in my chat. This is so exciting, this is great, because there's so many staff already doing the work.
I'm going to guess a lot of people were distracted by the pandemic, so even if they got the information, they were...
Well, and let me just speak to that. That's all of us, right?
Yeah.
On a daily basis, we're all spinning a lot of plates, and because this is a project that's a long-term thing, I'm dealing with the tyranny of the present, right? But we have to keep this moving, because we know in the long run this is going to benefit students, and we're already talking about overcoming all the losses. We have to keep working on this because that's our next step. So yeah, it's true. We're
Now, when
trying to
you
be sensitive to that, but we have to keep pushing.
You said that you're already doing what but I don't see state football championship on here.
Give me a minute.
Did I
okay?
miss that part?
Give me some time. We got it.
3 times out of 4 years, I think. But that's beside the point.
Thank you.
No.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm trying to send them home because they've had a very long day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming, Dr. Nero, Mr. Wagner.
Okay, Jeremy's up. Questions for Jeremy?
Good evening again, Vice President Erdenberger. Before I start, I do want to acknowledge the incredible work of Mrs. Morrissey from the District Communications Office, who has been highly engaged throughout this process and shares in our collective passion for the opportunities this evolution offers. So as part of our rollout for the opportunities to families and students especially, as this is what they choose to pursue in their high school career, we will continue with a series of virtual presentations for families and students from here, dates and times to be determined, but where families throughout the district can join. We would love to do it in person, but we'll do it virtually because of the pandemic. I also want to stress that this is part and just the beginning of a comprehensive communications plan between the District Communications Office, Curriculum and Instruction Support, our middle schools and our high schools, to educate families about what's available, to market opportunities for students, and then to tell that story like Mr. Wagner did tonight about how the opportunities are spurring success. And so this is something that begins with the rollout, but then becomes part of the annual communications efforts as students make school selections and decide between the opportunities before them.
Well, people have specific questions right now, obviously, which I'm not going to go into, but about, what happened to the dual language program, which I did hear a reference to it, so I'm not as concerned about that. But, what if you change your mind about being an actuary and you decide you want to be a plumber? And, a lot of detailed questions. So what you're describing is that these virtual meetings will give people a chance to ask what are really very specific questions to them and not really germane to this forum at all. So that's what's going to, now, but aren't they picking their high schools really soon? How does this fit in to people actually making these decisions?
And that's where this is part of the rollout, and Curriculum and Instruction Support in their portion of the presentation outlined how this will be phased in over the coming years. And I also want to stress the incredible work of teachers and our counselors and our school leaders in helping students identify those passions, what they may be good at. I think about my own high school experience and how just 1 or 2 critical conversations in a classroom changed my trajectory. So I know it's going to be a comprehensive effort throughout our district community to identify those passions and opportunities for students and connect them with it. But in terms of those individual conversations, I think those will happen in large parts at the school, where a teacher, a counselor, a principal may best know a student's particular background and interest and perhaps concerns that they may have. But from the district level, as we go forward in the coming weeks, it's really going to be about the broad opportunities and the evolution to come.
So my question was, when are the kids, the open houses are starting now, and when do they decide by? Or do they have? Thank you, Jeremy.
We actually had a virtual open house tonight, was Northwest. I just got a text from a parent who attended and said it was fabulous.
Great.
And so they have been attending. They haven't made their decisions yet. I believe forms are due, when is your? It's due at the end of this month. So I can't know the exact date, and I apologize that I don't know it. I want to say like the 29th. Does that sound right? Okay. The 29th of January. So there is some time yet for them to explore, but they're also getting the opportunity to visit virtually, to know and better understand the schools. The programming is now out and shared, but it's also important to remember the conversation that we had about the transferable skills, and students would be able to change or to do something different. They're not like lockstep. We really want to focus on trying to get them in the right pathway to start so they have that concentrated effort for the next several years. But we also know and understand the importance of that freshman class to help make some of those decisions.
Yeah, I guess what I was seeing was some of the questions are, literally, if you want to go to a new school, and if it's already full. I mean, just totally practical questions that are concerning parents, which I think a virtual forum of some kind would address.
We've also talked about the importance, we were talking about that today, of even putting together question answers out on the website to take some of those questions and put together some of those different types of things. So those questions will be helpful to us.
Sort of frequently asked
questions.
Oh, yeah, because I'm hearing the same ones.
So hopefully something like that might be very helpful. We had discussed that with Kayla a little earlier today.
And I just have one last question, which maybe you're the right person for it, and that is, we just had a presentation about how we anticipate it's going to take us 3 years to recover academically. And like it or not, we are asking a lot of people to suck it up a little bit more and do what it's going to take to do that. I was persuaded to a certain extent by thinking about, I taught block scheduling. I love block scheduling. It's the best thing in the world. But it's not easy to switch to it. And frankly, we are asking our teachers, I mean, it's a big change. It's the summer will be spent by teachers at those schools switching their lesson plans to accommodate block scheduling. Part of my question is, and this may or may not be the forum for it, is why do we have to do this now? What would be the downside, other than the fact that you have put in 3 years of work on it? What is the downside for focusing for one solid year of having everything be the way it's always been, have a chance to have schools the way they are, give teachers a little breathing time? What is lost by not delaying this for a year, other than the fact it's a great idea?
Well, a couple things. One, we are about to open 2 new high schools, and we've got to keep moving forward. Time is not standing still. Our next year could be as interrupted as this year, and then we would wait another year. And so as much as we're all, I think I really like what Dr. Nero said about spinning plates. This is, we do have the majority of our schools already on a block schedule. We do honor that we have some that are not. I switched from a regular period to a block schedule in 1994. I remember my summer with Atlas sitting there at High Point High School in the 1-week training to do that, just like it was yesterday. So it is a part of, we have a plan. We do need to keep moving forward. And for children, their time doesn't stand still. And one of the reasons that it's important to have a consistent schedule that wasn't mentioned today is mobility. We have students who move schools, they lose credits. It's not a small thing for them. It's a big deal. We have large numbers of kids who are mobile. And so it is time for us to move forward. We're going to always hear that, Jane. We're always going to hear, I'm sorry, Mrs. Erdenberger, we're at the table. So we're always going to hear, why can't we wait till the next year? Why can't we wait, to the next year? It is time for the Omaha Publics. Honestly, we're a few, we talked about this, we're a few years behind a national curve, about 15, to be honest, about when people have switched over to do this work. We have some students who enter our schools and do great. I talked about it in my opening remarks. They do great. And we have many students who, for this opportunity is urgent. Freshman year is critical. Freshman academies, that success, the freshman success work at the University of Chicago is about 18 or 19 years old at this point. It is time for us. It has been time. It's past time for us to move forward. We have delayed as much as we can, and it's not about. It's for all of us. We're all dealing with having to move forward in a pandemic, but it's time for us to move forward. Delaying will. When will we have a time when we don't know that answer?
I understand that. I guess I'm just trying to put it out there and encourage everybody, fellow board members, superintendents, everybody to think about. We have not made a switch like this in the middle of a pandemic before. And our teachers are thin right now. And I just want to be as cognizant as we can be about what we are asking them to do this summer, other than just sit in the bathtub and drink mint juleps. I mean, whether they're boys or girls, this is a recovery summer. And what we are asking is for many of them to not recover, not to be able to indulge in that recovery. And so that's the only reason I think.
No, I understand. I understand that, but I will tell you that I'm not convinced this is a recovery summer, to be honest. You know, we are a long way from that. The recovery summer might be 2021, 2022.
Mr. Thielen, I want to recognize that you did have a question for the principals, but is it something that you can ask the general team?
I think I just want to drive this point home. You know, at these schools where we already have academies, what, if any, extracurricular options or high-level academic classes had to be given up to make room for those?
Well, it's a matter of choice. It's not necessarily giving up. I think that the student that he mentioned, Paul Thiele, also takes advanced placement courses in addition to her CNA courses because she's interested in becoming a physician. So she's able to, she might not be able to take as many AP courses, but she's still able to take advanced courses. And it's a matter of what, you know, students choose if they decide they want to do that. One of the things that Ms. Christopherson mentioned, and we talked about it for, you know, should we have available staff, we want to be able to offer more original credit courses in the summer so that students can take some courses that they may want to take, and it frees up additional time. Some schools use what we call a zero hour, and they have a course. Usually it's a PE course. They may offer it a zero hour, some other courses. So that's what that is. Students that are in aviation, we have students who become pilots at Burke. They can take their aviation classes and still take a couple of AP classes if they would like to.
And as far as extracurriculars, again, are there any that aren't available at Benson because they have academies?
No, they have all the regular stuff. They have a great band. They have a really good band teacher. He's amazing. They have band, they have chorus, they have football. I tease them about their football team, but I can't do it here. They have football, they have basketball, they have, you know, they have all the other sports and swimmers and all of that kind of thing. And they also have kids who leave there in the construction trades and go straight and have a job that they want to do, or go to Metro or to four-year university to pursue whatever their interest is.
And do you mind if I get a couple more questions in real briefly here? Do we track what our students do upon graduation or what they plan to do after graduation?
In terms of college, we use a national clearinghouse, but Susan, you want to talk a little bit about?
I can tell you that my son, who just graduated, just received a phone call from the research office tracking him down to ask specific questions about what he is doing now. Hopefully he's returned the call. So I do know that our research office does put together a graduation survey, if I'm getting the term correct, but yes, they have done that in the past.
And
they
so,
would be able to speak to that better than I could.
And if you don't have this information off the top of your head, it'd be great to get it. But just kind of what, when we look at the transition to the academy at Benson and formalizing that at North, kind of how, if any, in any way those numbers changed during that transition.
I think I would feel more comfortable if I could rely on Scott to get that information to you guys. I think he would be able to provide that better.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
And then just one more. How do we plan to advise students? What's that process of advising students to sort of make sure that they're aware of what their options are, that, you know, that these courses, you know, if they're interested, these courses are for them? How do we do that? And
we're going to have a great partnership with our school counseling. Our school counselors are essential in the work that we do day in and day out. They know their students well. But one of the exciting parts of the academy work or even the pathway work is that it's a collective group It's a collective team that's working together to get to know students, to help and answer questions and to talk and to help with that process. There's interest surveys. We would use Naviance. There's ways to keep track of student portfolios. All of that is a part of this work so that the student is actually having some time to do some self-exploration. I think that was one of the earlier statistics that Melissa shared, that students aren't even taking some time to really understand what it is they like and might be interested in. And so how can we take those interests and just offer out some different questions to help guide them to their next steps?
Great, thank you.
Ms. Snipes.
Thank you, Dr. Holman. Nick actually asked a couple of my questions. Before I get to my next question, I do want to say that you're actually taking me back in time a little bit. This really excited me when I saw the presentation. When I was with Heartland Workforce Solutions, still consulting with them, I had the pleasure of working alongside the Department of Labor. And once we had conversations with them, when you're trying to help people find jobs, especially in marginalized communities, concentrated areas of poverty, I think about OPS and the demographics of that. My only focus was what we refer to as H3, the high skill, high wage, high demand. So I think that this is genius. I kept thinking to myself, we need to be doing this in school. We need to be doing this in school. And so this is very, very extremely exciting to me. So I'm very happy to see it. I was curious as to, and I don't know if this is the same question, but I was curious as to those students who have gone through it, what they did decide to do after they graduated. And then I was wondering with kids in middle school, and I'm not sure, it's just something that's coming up in my head. I'm wondering, is there a way that we are able to assess them or something just to kind of help figure out what really is of interest to them? I'm not sure what that looks like. It's just something that I was thinking of. But all in all, I think this is really exciting, and I would be happy to, as a community member, utilize Sona to help communicate this. But I am curious also as to the Cambridge, and I know that previously you went over this, but I can't remember. So the Cambridge, a little bit more detail about it and why some schools have it and some schools do not.
So, well, thanks for the question. The Cambridge programs are in schools that we found that there are a lot of students that have a lot of students from multiple cultures and multiple languages. So that's where the priority was placed to provide those students with the advanced learning opportunities that come from the benefit of the Cambridge program. So I think hopefully that answers that question for you.
All right, Ms. Cassidy was next.
Thank you. I know we're getting a little late, so I'll be brief, but I wanted to make a point, just kind of in what we've all been saying this evening. I think it's important for the public and for some of our new board members to really understand just how long this has all been taking shape. And I know that there's feelings that maybe it's being rushed. It is not. This has been years in the making. We that have been on the board for a few years have been a part of that. It's nothing new. We have been hearing about these programs, the pathways, the academy, for quite some time. You folks have been working on this. So I think that's important for you guys to understand. You might be playing a little bit of catch up on some of the questions that you're asking. I know when we had, when the pandemic first, it feels like years, but when the pandemic first started, we had a meeting scheduled in Teams with some of you folks. And I remember thinking to myself, why aren't we putting this on hold? We're in the middle of a pandemic. But to your point, Dr. Logan, we cannot wait. We have to keep moving forward, and I think it's important to realize that we are a little bit behind in some of the curriculum that we offer as opposed to other school districts. So I think that's important to keep in mind, that we do need to keep moving forward. We cannot let the current pandemic just stall us. And I've been really impressed with the district and the folks that have been working, all you folks that have been working diligently on this, that you have not stopped at all. You have continued to do your piece over here, pandemic-wise, COVID-wise. It feels like that's all that we think we're doing, but behind the scenes, it is not. You folks have been keeping all of this going as well, and that's been really impressive to watch. So I thank you for that. I do have just one question, though. I have also gotten several emails from parents and teachers and whatnot, mostly about block versus traditional, and I understand that that's just a piece that has to change. Consistency, equitability. I mean, we want to keep all of our schools consistent. I've also been really impressed with the thoughtfulness that's gone into why each school has what it has or what it will have. I think it's been very thoughtful in the process. As you just mentioned, the Cambridge, why those certain schools have Cambridge. So that's been nice to see. I do want to know, though, about AP. I've had several parents ask me about AP courses. Will anything change with regard to AP classes? Will those still be something that's continued at our high school? I'm assuming so, but I've had a lot of parents say, oh my gosh, I think we're getting rid of all AP classes, and that is not the case, I'm hoping.
That is not the case.
Okay.
We are absolutely, in fact, we're looking on ways to increase what we can do because we're actually wanting to grow the number of students who are taking those courses. We have been following the data and trying to take a look at how do we get more students prepared and ready and willing to take on that level of an AP course, and continuing our considerations for what we can do for dual enrollment as well.
Okay, that's
Yep,
perfect.
absolutely.
I wanted to have everyone hear that's emailed me. AP is,
It's on.
dual enrollment is fantastic, so I'm glad to hear that will all stay in place. Okay, thank you so much.
Ms. Crackey.
I know that you are being able to be called if you're in the district about your plans after you've graduated. But I'm thinking about the virtual meetings you're going to have in locating and taking students through the buildings and the plans so they know what they're doing. What do you do about the students who have not previously been in a middle school in our district? Do we have a list of those students to send them an invitation to the virtual schools?
I believe you're referring to the virtual open houses.
Well, I don't know that they know they should go to virtual and find that.
I know that our schools have done an incredible job of communicating, sending out information. Our district communications office has also helped to promote and to encourage and all that they can to make sure.
Students that aren't even attending OPS?
I believe that it's been out and sent to about.
If it's in
Yep.
that sub-district, that child gets something.
Yep, and I know our schools have continued to send out communications to say, hey, join us. They've sent out communications, yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Head?
Thank you, President Holman, and I'll try to be quick with this. Like Mrs. Erdenberger and Ms. Cassidy here, I've got a number of questions from parents, and I appreciate that there's going to be a kind of an open house format where parents can ask questions. I think that's really going to be helpful to answer a lot of these. So I'll skip over most of them, but I have a couple that were at least pressing, or I had been kind of grinding on for a while. So if a student goes in, say their sophomore year, and they're going down one pathway or academy, and they decide, at the end of the school year or halfway through the school year, oh, this isn't really what I want to do anymore, are they given the opportunity to switch trajectories within the school, or would they even be able to change schools at that point?
So just like now, yes, our students will have the opportunity to explore and then re-explore. Ideally, right now, we don't allow our students to change a course in the middle of a semester, so we'd want them to finish out the semester or the year before they transition to a new pathway or academy. And we also intend for students to have thoughtful conversations with their school counselor, with their teachers in their academy or outside of their academies to really help shape that decision. But this is also about choice and ownership. If our students own the decision of the academy or pathway that they are involved in, we know that they're going to be more successful and enjoy it. And it's, we're not trying to make 25% of the students at Burke High School be pilots or aviation mechanics. It's about the transferable skills, and it's about taking those skills and transferring them to other careers or other experiences as well.
All right. Thank you. And then I know you talked a little bit in the presentation about engaging, local industry and the chamber and other outside organizations to kind of decide what career trajectories are best for, for our community and what going forward, I know it's difficult to project what the economy is going to look like and what Omaha is going to look like 15, 20 years down the road, as we're planning for students now. So how's the district then going to decide what programs we're going to eliminate or add going forward?
And so this is really almost like our continuous or school improvement process. This is really going to be a continuous process as well. We know as soon as we get this implemented, there'll be new careers that come out. Some of the smart technology careers that we're talking about at 60th and L Street, those may broaden and be needed at high schools at a different level in the future as well. So we'll be constantly looking at that. We'll be looking at the data through our enrollments, our student interest, and reassessing, if academies need more opportunities or less opportunities based on what's there. And again, we look nationally, we look statewide as well to see what some of those emerging programs are. And that's sometimes the fun part of our job, is to explore what we're going to provide to our kids that's going to help them be the learners of 2040 or beyond. I mean, we don't always know what those careers are.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for the presentation tonight. Thank you so much for hanging so long with us. I know this is getting to be a long night, but also I wanted to share with you all, in case the public is interested in knowing, that the grad follow-up information is also located on the district website as well. Okay, we have 2 receipt of reports tonight. District free and reduced price lunch report for 2020-2021, and CBOC update of the Phase 1 and Phase 2 bond programs, December 20. And now moving on to closed session. Jane, excuse me, I'm sorry, Ms. Erdenberg.
No problem. I move that the Board of Education go into closed session for the protection of the public interest and for the prevention of needless injury to the reputation of individuals, to discuss with the superintendent, secretary to the board, and legal counsel negotiations.
I have a motion to go into closed session by Vice President Ms. Ergenberger, and I need a second.
Second.
Okay. Who said that?
Kimra.
Thank you. Second by Mr. Thielen. Roll call, please, Mr. Ray.
Head.
Yes.
Holman.
Aye.
Cracky.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Snipes.
Aye.
Thielen.
Aye.
Cassidy.
Aye.
Erdenberger.
Aye.
8 aye.
Motion carries. Let me remind the board that the purpose of closed session is for the protection of the public interest and for the prevention of needless injury to the reputation of individuals, to discuss with the superintendent, secretary to the board, and legal counsel negotiations. Let the record reflect that the Board of Education went to closed session at 9:13 p.m.